So I'll get everything blurbed out as far as Facebook and whatnot if you want to go take care of that.
Yeah,
So
you
that
get
way
it
you're all
sent
good.
over.
All right.
All right, I'll be right back.
All right. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. Hey, let's get this. Let's get that. Terrible! God damn it. Terrible! Cable! Good lord. Lord of mercy. My fellow Americans, I require your... I'm no longer asking for your support, I am demanding. Bark. Bark, bark, bark. Zach, I can hear you. I hear your barking. Doggo, 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 doggo. I got fun viewer so far. Welcome to the pre-stream technically. I've got fun person so far. I'm currently waiting on Joe to come back so we can get officially rolling. As you can hear in the background, you can hear his cute dog. Excuse me, I muted myself just so that way no one could hear the horrendous doom that is my sneezing. Take a sip of my surge. I'm getting all set and ready here. Let's see. Let's get there. I gotta fit that there. It's good. It's good. It's going good now. everything seems to be good so far as everything's running properly. Horrendous memes.
Alright, I'm back.
Hello.
Sorry, I forgot to mute.
Oh no, you're perfectly fine. It was good to hear that Zach has several opinions about some of the stuff we're going to be talking about today. I conversed with him a little bit at a distance.
Really? Because I'm pretty sure his opinions are about me being outside.
Yeah, it was mostly just that.
How fucking dare he?
You fucking dare.
So what are our topics for today?
Well, first things first, welcome everybody who's going to be tuning in or is tuned in now to a Distracted Podcast. I am your host, the Distracted Gamer, or a Distracted Gamer, whichever you prefer, Scorchus12 CJ, and with me today is the one and only Joe. As far as topics today, I definitely want to touch base on the wonderful news in gaming that is Lucasfilm Games coming back to the fold. As far as it's not LucasArts, but it's still the same principle and philosophy behind it when it comes to producing Star Wars games through the brand of Lucasfilm.
Most importantly, the reign of EA games.
As far as their exclusivity, they still have their contract until 2023 to be able to produce games, but they no longer have the exclusive rights.
Yes, which means their reign of terror is over.
Yes.
They still release terrible games, but there'll be plenty more. I'll be right back, though.
Uh-oh. As far as those who are not aware, this past week, there was a trailer released from the Great Mouse Overlords and their PR team, and they are reviving the old LucasArts video game brand that used to be a part of Lucasfilms, and they are rebranding it as Lucasfilm Games, and that means that the wonderful world that is Star Wars video games is going to be coming back to the forefront when it comes to being able to create things that are consistent, clear, and concise, and actually deliver on what they're supposed to do. At least that's what the hope is. That's what a lot of fans are hoping for. But we still have 3 years worth of 2 more years technically, because it is 2021 now, of EA having their contract with Disney as far as being able to produce games, but they no longer have their exclusivity clause attached to it anymore. Because along with their trailer showing a bunch of old games, a lot of it prominently at the forefront, a lot of stuff involving Knights of the Old Republic, which was kind of exciting to me, and how it was, the entire trailer kind of went through all the strokes of like Star Wars through the years in regards to gaming, including some stuff I think from like Jedi Academy and whatnot in the trailer clips. But they did finish off with Jedi Knight Fallen Order as far as being their most recent success, as well as most recent release for Star Wars video games. But shortly after the trailer was released, it was announced that Ubisoft was given the project to create an open world Star Wars game. So we'll see how that goes, because Ubisoft is kind of 50-50 on how good their open world games are. You've played Assassin's Creed Valhalla, so you can probably attest to what currently is going on for their more open worldy sort of quest driven video games of late. If you want to touch with that a little bit.
Yeah. So, Assassin's Creed Valhalla was a pretty decent success.
as far as their open world gaming goes. I feel like we're probably going to get a Assassin's Creed-esque Star Wars game. I had joked when I first started playing Valhalla that I would love a Mandalorian game that was just Assassin's Creed, but you're a Mando. And instead of different, kingdoms in a country or a different planet, doing the Star Wars thing.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. It'd sort of harken back to Star Wars Bounty Hunter with Jango Fett and whatnot. Hell, maybe even just like a sequel to that game, except like expand on the premise a little bit more. As far as like game features, as far as like I would like to see in an open world Star Wars game, definitely like interplanetary travel. A lot of if it were to be like Assassin's Creed, definitely a lot of bounty hunter stuff. Maybe like Mandalorian would be definitely interesting, but it would be cool just to explore more of the criminal underground in the Star Wars universe, especially when it comes to like the different cartels and the different groups that all sort of vie for power in the galaxy. When it comes to like a lot of the shadow
bounty hunters or criminals or something like that would be a great game to base off of.
Yeah.
Less the syndicates, more the bounty hunter.
Yeah.
Aspect.
Because you could have the syndicates be like have them be the overarching antagonists in the game.
You can actually, you can work with other bounty hunters or against bounty hunters. Like, you have Cad Bane.
Yeah. Because that's actually one story that wasn't really touched back on in the final season of Clone Wars, but that's neither here nor there.
Maybe we'll get to see Boba Fett's final fight with Cad Bane in the video game.
That'd be cool.
We only got that in the comic.
And I think the comic was only based off of the animatic that was released after Clone Wars initially had ended.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, and I watched that. That was actually really cool because it shows you how Boba got his dent in his helmet come the original trilogy. But yeah, I think honestly, like a bounty hunter open world game would be good because it helps with limiting the limiting the aspect of like the RPG side of things, just because it seems like a lot of the Assassin's Creed stuff that's been going on, as well as some of the things I've seen with Watch Dogs, just passively looking, not actively playing, mind you. So this is from someone who's not experienced firsthand what the games entail. But it seems like they're adding a lot of like halfway decent RPG systems to the gameplay, so it'd be really cool to see them sort of limit things towards what things that are non-Jedi, as opposed to like what people might like initially like call it for. It's like, oh, they're gonna make you a Jedi and set it during the High Republic.
I'm okay with that too, but
I think having them as like two separate things would be cool, because you could have one experience that's geared towards more mature gamers, because like Assassin's Creed isn't like very kid friendly, but like Watch Dogs is kind of closer towards a general Watch Dogs is closer to a general audience, as far as I can tell now, as much as it has a lot of like political messages and like revolutionary like ties to it. No, it's very much a game that isn't based in telling a very cohesive or particularly grand narrative, whereas Assassin's Creed is telling a grand narrative and uses a lot of mature themes to sort of explore that. From at least what I recall and remember when I played the games.
They fell off that a while ago. I think they're trying to bring it back. They are telling a new narrative.
Yeah.
While trying to reference the old, but
it's either you continue with the previous narrative or you try something new and do a soft reboot.
Pretty much, which they already did their soft reboot, which was Origins.
Yeah, which as far as I recall, it was kind of it was a good game. I think it was just a little bit soft boiled because it didn't go too far in one direction or another when it could have done a lot more with what it had, at least historically speaking.
Yeah, you can say that about any.
Well, yeah, that's the modern gaming market in general as well. But anywho, so that'll be really interesting to see. I'm hoping that we get an actually good sequel to 2005 Star Wars Battlefront 2. Because as much as EA's DICE tech demos for the Frostbite 2 engine and like 2.5-ish engine were for Battlefront and Battlefront 2, there's only like one level in the campaign that Battlefront 2 had, which was the only game between the two of them that had a genuine campaign. Like, the only level that was good in that campaign, from what I can tell, was the one where you get to play as Luke Skywalker, and they wrote him very well. But other than that, the game is kind of meh.
With that particular setup, I actually, so I got Battlefront 2 included when I bought my PS Pro, because I got the Star Wars PS Pro.
Yeah.
Because I wanted the Star Wars controller and whatnot.
The console and whatnot, yeah. All the stuff that comes with exclusive release stuff.
Yeah, so I bought that, but I haven't really played it.
So, the one thing I will say, multiplayer-wise right now, it's better than it was on release because it had all of the gambling controversy because of the loot box situation during 2019. It was horrendous, let me tell you, because there are some gentle hints to it in Battlefront, but then it became worse in Battlefront 2 on release. All that got rolled back. A lot of it is more
like Vader behind the paywall.
Every hero character in their costumes and their extra abilities and like cards. Like, I hate card systems in multiplayer games to begin with, but a lot of features were locked behind the loot box system, and it was their way to try to create a quote unquote live service, player friendly live service system for a game that didn't require live service or loot boxes. All you had to do was create a game where you unlock the stuff that you want to use and get better with them by using them. Because that's what they did in Battlefront 1, which was fine. I didn't mind waiting to unlock the DL-44, Han Solo's blaster, until I got a high enough level to unlock it, because that fucking thing is pretty good.
Well, again, I don't have any experience with the game. However, I did just download it off of Epic Games.
Yes.
Not really trying to shout them out, but it is free right now.
Yeah, not sponsored.
So,
Epic Games Store has it free. It's good.
Yeah, I figured I'd give it a run with some friends just for shits and giggles. Like,
Yeah,
I don't expect to ever get with it.
Yeah, I was thinking about reinstalling it and maybe streaming it a bit at some point in the next week or so, but
I'm not good with shooters as is.
it's perfectly fine. Getting into it now is really hard.
I'm also bad with keyboard gaming in general.
I mean, that's why I have a controller, because plug and play is a lot easier for me when it comes to games that are essentially built for console first.
Yeah, I should probably look at downloading a plug-and-play system so I can throw all my controllers on.
You don't have to download it. If you have a PC-ready Xbox 360 controller, or like you can go to Walmart and pay $20 for a Xbox One controller. It's all USB driven. Or if you prefer PlayStation,
my PlayStation.
Yeah, PlayStation controller wise, they do make a Bluetooth dongle that you plug into your computer, and it should send and receive the exclusive Bluetooth signal that the controllers use with the console.
Interesting.
Trust me, I've done enough research on the FAF of peripheral hardware for my PC to know enough that, like, I saved money with my $20 purchase.
I mean, I'm sure I could get a not name brand controller that is sized like a PlayStation controller but it's an Xbox controller for all intents and purposes.
I mean, you can get a PC friendly PlayStation controller.
Yeah, I can just buy one of those. I just need to.
Yeah, like doing a quick Google lookup here. Might have to feature all the ugly looking ones that aren't what I asked Google. You engine that is supposed to be optimized, and suddenly you just don't give me what I asked for.
That was your first mistake.
Yeah, no, I had an assumption. It didn't fucking happen. PlayStation 4 controller PC. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
So, Astro Gaming makes one, but it is no longer in regular production, so it's $100.
No.
There's the Razer Raiju. I remember that one being released. That's
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was like announced forever ago.
yeah, that one's too expensive to get now because like it's no longer produced. That's also PlayStation 4. PlayStation 5 controllers haven't even reached the tertiary market to be produced because the technology is still technically within quote unquote trademark.
I think the PS4 controller is fine.
Yeah.
I think a PS3 controller.
They do.
Walmart,
Walmart does sell one for just under $30. That's wired, and it's just a PlayStation 4 controller setup. It's generic brand.
I'm fine with
The
that.
the
like,
the Vinsic. I'll drop that link for you in Discord for you.
that works.
Forgive me, people, while I send this message to Joe here, so that way
Is it
that's
the
all
ET
good.
Park PS4 wired controller.
It's Vinsync brand, so it's like one of the generic store brand controller kind of deal. I just dropped the Google link for you, so that way you'll see the image before like heading to the store page. I don't know if it's available. I just know that they have a type of controller. Because that's all you can really do nowadays is find things by like the means of Google or through just looking.
Yeah, well, I just found the ET Park wired controller
Mm-hmm.
for PS4, but I'm pretty certain it will work on a PC.
Yeah, because because I specifically Googled a PC PlayStation controller or PlayStation 4 controller, and that was what popped up through Walmart
Yep.
through two different ad points on Google shopping.
I just
So-
found this one $20 on Amazon.
Nice. As long as it says like it's like basically plug and play, where you don't even need like a driver update, or it doesn't require a PlayStation to use the controller, you should be fine.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, because that was my major concern when I purchased the Xbox One controller I use, is that it was plug and play. Because otherwise, it's really friggin' annoying to like. I don't want to have to update drivers on this as much as I want to get an Xbox Elite controller. That thing has separate drivers, and it can take forever to download updates for every button to work.
Yeah, it does require a driver.
Okay, so that's not as bad as long as that's basically as close to plug and play as you're gonna get for PlayStation, because it's not like Microsoft optimized, but that's okay. Plug and play, download the driver. That should be good for support. Most games should recognize it, especially Battlefront 2.
All right, well, we'll talk about that more later.
Yeah. So
About optimizing my ability to play games.
yeah, but getting back to it, so with my experience with Battlefront 2, the multiplayer is good. It's difficult to kind of get into it a little bit, just because you are dealing with people who have been playing it for a longer period of time since release, and so like there's definitely like a skill curve that sort of has to be worked through. But the one benefit that it does have is that the game doesn't need the full 64 player limit for a match to run, because you'll end up fighting like regular computers in a match, because they added a bunch of extras to the map to make things a little bit more full.
Word.
The only downside that I've seen in the multiplayer design is that there isn't like your traditional team deathmatch. There isn't your traditional like conquest. Everything is a variant of conquest, and it's all a matter of battlefield supremacy. So you start off on the base map, and you go to each of the control points, and if you collect enough, if you hold enough of these control points, you get the ability to go into the opponent's capital ship to be able to destroy it, and then you win the match. So it's basically like tug of war for anywhere from like 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how good the team is, how good of the team you're playing against and you're playing with. Because I've played a match where it was almost an hour long, and it was Clone Wars era, basically trying to get to the other ship, getting pushed off of it halfway through, and then fighting, having to defend the inside of my ship, pushing them back out, for them to eventually come back in and just destroy us, and losing the match. So like a lot of it isn't a lot of it is more or less like having a good awareness of your surroundings while in the game and knowing where people are. But I think with like actual friends to play with, it'll be a little bit easier for people going back in or going in for the first time to play it. I just know that the big feature of Battlefront 2 when it was released was the fact that it had a campaign. I'm like, that's like the bare fucking minimum for most games, especially with multiplayer. Like Call of Duty is all about the multiplayer, but at least they try to like put forth some form of competent story. Sometimes it doesn't hit. Most of the time they're doing it to show off what they've done to upgrade the graphics and the engine and the art design for things. But at least they're putting forth an effort. Whereas EA, when they released the first Battlefront game, it was nothing but multiplayer, which was fine. The first Battlefront game on the original Xbox was almost exclusively multiplayer, but like it did have like the Galactic Conquest campaign, which is sort of loosely a campaign for each of the eras. So you could play as the CIS or play as the Republic and try to conquer planets, and that's how you win the game.
Sure.
But then in 2005's Battlefront 2, they actually had a journal from a clone. They had the Journal of a Clone Trooper from the 501st, and that's who you played throughout the campaign. So you saw went from the Battle of Geonosis, which was your tutorial. You fought through the Clone Wars. And then you experienced the fall of the Republic and the rise of the New Order through the Empire, and you went from 501st to Vader's Fist. So you got to experience like in one of the missions, you go back to Kamino and you kill your fellow clone brethren who have been produced by the Kaminoans to rebel against the Empire, and you quell a rebellion, basically destroy Kamino.
Sure.
And and that was pretty competent for an Xbox game, and it was also on a PlayStation 2, but that's neither here nor there. It was at least a competent story, whereas like the campaign in Battlefront 2 was kind of meh. It had some things that are now considered canon in Star Wars because Disney gave the okay for some of these things, but the writing wasn't all there. And I'm just hoping that if they go back to the drawing board with a sequel, that they actually do something that is competent, solid, doesn't have loot boxes, and it's a good campaign and multiplayer experience. But who's to say? I don't even know if that's going to be like slated on their production for a while, because they're still getting money out of Battlefront 2.
They're still updating Battlefront 2.
Yeah, the last major update they received was I think adding content for Rise of Skywalker. Oh, they
had some Mando content.
That's some Mando content? Okay.
No, they did. I think they did. I might be wrong. It might be a different game.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Fortnite did. I'm pretty sure like Fortnite did a Mando event for season 2. I don't recall anything coming out for Battlefront 2 because that would have been something I heard.
Oh, they're mods. They're mods.
Oh yeah, mods. Okay, so let me see. I'm just gonna quickly Google Battlefront 2 recent update. It's the latest Battlefront 2 update. After more than 2 years of putting out original content post-launch, he has announced that its latest Battle on Scarif update will be Battlefront 2's last. That was from last April. So the game is still currently supported and getting optimization updates and like bug updates, but they are no longer creating more content for the game.
Which makes sense.
Which typically that happens for about a year or two before they announce and go into a new project to create a sequel to a game. At least from like EA's practice and of a business practice and standpoint of production.
Yeah, but EA sucks. So
Mm-hmm.
their reign of terror, as I said earlier,
is over. The one thing I will say is I hope they give Battlefront to a studio that is capable of making a good multiplayer game, as well as maybe co-producing it with either like making it co-produced between Lucasfilm Games and a competent multiplayer studio, and create a game that has a good story for a campaign, as well as good as well as like competent multiplayer.
I don't need multiplayer. I love Fallen Order, and I'm cool if they write solo player games.
Well, yeah, I'm okay with solo experiences too. I'm just saying, as far as for the Battlefront like brand, a lot of its stuff was a lot of that stuff is like multiplayer centric. But having having a single player campaign experience to play through for that game, like since 2005's Battlefront 2, has sort of been what's been the expectation for a sequel for that game. And EA had two strikes.
Sure, but still the past.
Okay, Kylo Ren, calm down.
I mean, like,
Let's see. And I think in other Star Warsy news, I think Kevin Feige came forward and said that the rumored sequel, that people said he was supposed to be making or producing, was just a rumor.
which sequel?
So there was a rumor that it was either a trilogy or a single movie that Kevin Feige was supposed to be making or producing a Star Wars film or trilogy.
That doesn't make sense considering Feige's the Marvel guy.
Exactly.
And holy shit, they have so much on their plate coming up that even if Feige wanted to, he can't.
Yeah.
Dude has no time for Star Wars. He's busy with Marvel.
I mean, the guy did lock himself in a room for a bit to fill it up with whiteboards and stuff to essentially to be the architect for the Marvel Cinematic Universe as we know it.
Yep. Without him, Marvel wouldn't be what it is right now.
Exactly. I think he had confirmed that the rumor was false, but he could be being in consulting terms, like assisting Lucasfilm as a brand to help them with
Well, sure,
planning.
Let's look at the real talk here. Like, you just say Lucasfilm, Marvel Studios. They're Disney.
Yeah.
They're both Disney, 100%. And thusly, one employee on one project can be moved to another for consultation. For how
Yeah,
to go
exactly.
about doing things. Because they work for, it's all the same job. Just, it's like if you worked at the same McDonald's, and your primary job is register.
Yeah.
But sometimes you gotta pull the fucking fries out of the fryer.
Yeah.
Even though that's not your job, you gotta do it.
Yeah, exactly. So.
And until Filoni and Favreau pulled up with Mando, they definitely needed to get their fries out of the oven, you know, out of the fryer.
Yeah, because like we talked about this before in previous conversations, well before the podcast was a thing, but as well as like I think a little bit in the Attack of the Clones pilot episode, the sequel trilogy was definitely underbaked in certain areas, but didn't emphasize enough of a change in like a new cinematic direction for Star Wars to be worthwhile to explore further.
Look, I'm not gonna get started on that. I'm very opinionated. I can enjoy a movie, and that doesn't necessarily make it a good movie.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, like I enjoy The 13th Warrior, and that's like a schlocky '90s film, but that's like neither here nor there.
Based on all these nostalgia flicks, the '90s was great for cinema.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, it was also based off of a Michael Crichton book, so they produced the movie simply because Jurassic Park was a success.
Hey, you know, whatever works.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't. But as far as Star Wars gaming specifically goes, you've got EA, who's had exclusive rights for a very long time now.
Yeah, almost 10 years. They signed their contract back in 2013, I think.
My dog doesn't like them. He thinks they're bad.
I can hear Zach.
Yeah, Tokyo Rebuffs. Yeah, yeah. Fuck EA. They suck. Their most successful Star Wars game to date, in my opinion, is definitely Jedi Fallen Order. And damn, is that game short.
Yeah. I think honestly, like Jedi Fallen Order is more or less like a proof of concept for what could be a larger game for a sequel, as opposed to like being a fully dedicated like single player solo experience.
But it should have been. It was the chosen one.
That's right, Zach. They should have made the game longer. They should have been more trusting of. They should have been more trusting of the studio that actually made single player experiences and give them the project, as opposed to giving it to Respawn Entertainment, which is famous for making multiplayer experiences, i.e., Titanfall and Titanfall 2.
They were the chosen one.
Because that's sort of the big thing with EA, is that they purposely mismanage the studios that they purchase. Because Respawn Entertainment made Jedi Fallen Order, and then what studio? BioWare, who famously made Knights of the Old Republic, was tasked with making Anthem, which is a multiplayer Destiny-style shooting experience, which would have been better fit with Respawn Studio when it comes to experience in producing games. But EA before has done this to the studios that they purchase and fold into their little megalopoly. Is they'll give a studio a game or a project that they've never done before and expect them to fail. So with Anthem, that game failed on release.
It was definitely like on trial by fire.
Yeah, because like Respawn Entertainment has never, like, their first single player experience was a campaign tied to the multiplayer that they built for Titanfall 2, and that campaign was pretty okay, from what I've played and what I've watched my younger brother play of it. But like the Jedi Fallen Order should have gone to BioWare, because they've made two successful single player RPG Star Wars experiences before they were bought by EA. And EA probably very purposely gave them Anthem because they expected them to fail, but didn't expect Respawn Entertainment to make something that was competent and just passable when it came to a single-player Star Wars experience. Granted, it's not as long as it should be.
It was surprisingly a really good game for how short it was.
Exactly, because like I've watched other people play it. I've watched clips and whatnot of like the fights and whatnot, and like the writing is there for them to create a more comprehensive story. Something longer, something with more stakes and whatnot, but like
more high ground.
Yeah, exactly, more high ground, just as Obi-Wan would want. But like,
it's not without flaws.
Yeah, it's not
both story driven and mechanic. But
I mean, they were trying to put Dark Souls-esque combat mechanics into a lightsaber murder simulator, which honestly is fine because you need to make. It's a way to make money, but also a way to make Jedi more like, I guess, more human, quote unquote, sort of like more flawed and more capable of being killed.
They shouldn't be. That's the whole point of Jedi.
Well, yeah, but like also Fallen Order with Cal Kestis, he's suppressed his Force abilities for years to survive. So like it makes sense that he has to finish his training before he's like fully a Jedi.
Kanan Jarrus. He was a video game version of the main Jedi from Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real here. Their backstories are pretty much the exact same.
Kinda. I mean, Kanan was born on the planet as a Force sensitive. On the planet he's from as a Force sensitive. He wasn't a Padawan.
Yes, he was.
Was he a Padawan?
Yes.
Oh wait, no, Kanan. I was thinking of the.
You're thinking of Ezra Bridger.
Yeah, I was thinking of Ezra. Kanan. Yeah, I remember now. Fuck. Yeah.
Ezra's master, Kanan.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Fuck. I'm sorry, Joe.
No, how dare you? Not Star Wars.
I'm supposed to know all of it all at once, especially with other shit that I need to talk about with some of the Star Wars
Everyone
news.
currently watching the stream and watching the stream in the future, from this point forward, unsubscribe, quit, never come back here until he learns his Star Wars.
Don't listen to him. He doesn't
Don't
know.
listen on that one.
Don't listen to Joe. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's gone mad.
But while you're here, if you want to hit that follow button, we wouldn't be upset.
Hit that follow and subscribe button. Hit that like. Hit that bell. Get to know when more things are
What?
coming up. But yeah. So
You think I don't know how to chill out for the internet masses?
to shill or not to shill, that is not the question. The point is to do it. But yeah, I can definitely see how Cal and Kanan are. They're definitely parallels.
Like, alright, so here's the difference. When Cal escaped, he didn't join the Rebel Alliance. Kanan did. But up until their escape from Order 66, they had the same backstory.
Yeah, which is fair, 100%. So
I believe Kanan's master was also killed on a Venator.
I mean, a lot of Jedi were killed on Venator class cruisers. Or Venator class
You know what's funny? Until
destroyers.
in Revenge of the Sith, though, you only see Jedi killed on worlds.
Yeah. Sometimes in ships,
except for
sometimes
Plo
in vehicles, but
Except for Plo Koon, who died in the air. But he was not in space, he was in the air.
yeah, he was in atmosphere, so technically on planet.
He was.
Yep. But like, yeah, I guess the writers had to fall back on a character that didn't live to see the end of their series to sort of get inspiration from. There's also a lot more of that like Qui-Gon Jinn style of Jedi in Cal than there is in Kanan. Oh no, someone has entered the fray. I have to adjust the scene collection to make sure that it fits 3 people.
Sorry, I'll be
There
on
we go.
ready, so I figured I would stop by, say hi, and talk some Star Wars.
Hey,
Hello.
Ellie, how you doing? For those who are unaware, this is Eliwick from Eliwick Streams.
Eliwick Bolt Run.
He does a lot of gaming streaming here on Twitch, and
He just did his
fucking
dating.
nerd.
He just did his dating stream Thursday game yesterday, which I think was what is it? Sleeping with all the devils in hell. Helltaker.
I actually did 2. I did Helltaker, which I 100% did in like an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's not a long experience. Second Circle's supposed to be a longer sequel once it's out.
Yeah, I'm gonna look into that. And then I also did Moemon.
Moemon. That sounds cursed.
It's Pokemon, but with adorable animated sprites.
I would guess by the word moe and that Moemon. Fucking cursed content. Get that shit out of here.
No, honestly though, it is really good. It's fire red, and like the sprites are adorable.
Goodness. All right, moving away from the weeb stuff. Let's talk about real serious business. Star Wars.
Specifically, Star Wars gaming.
Yes.
One of the big rumors that I'm really looking to hope is true is KOTOR 3.
I'd love KOTOR 3.
So, I was going to say, one thing we do have to keep in mind, though, is technically EA's contract doesn't expire until 2023.
Yes, we are aware. We actually discussed this earlier.
It's the exclusivity portion of their contract is null and void because Disney pulled out. They have a contract to produce Star Wars games until 2023, pending renewal prior to that. But EA no longer has the exclusive rights to Star Wars as far as video game production alone. So they can still produce Star Wars games as long as they have a contract with Disney, as far as to have rights to produce games under Star Wars.
We could see a Battlefront 3 come out, which would, even if their contract's expired, allow them to still make money off of future DLCs.
Yeah.
It would already be a release game.
But as far as any other sort of Star Wars title, they no longer have to be produced solely under EA now,
Correct.
because of Ubisoft being given a open world Star Wars project.
I would love an Unreal Engine KOTOR 3.
Oh,
All right.
I could
So,
see
like,
that.
If we're going to talk about games that can happen now, not under EA, that's the biggest one. Everyone who likes Star Wars games will tell you the best Star Wars games of all time are the KOTOR series, the original Battlefront,
Yep.
2, Battlefront 2 specifically, and Pod Racer.
Pod Racer.
Pod Racer.
Pod
was the
Racer.
best Nintendo 64 Star Wars game.
And you know what's funny? Last year they re-released it on the Switch digital arcade, sort of like digital games marketplace. They didn't up-res it at all. It's still the N64 graphics
Yes.
and shit.
Yes,
I'm like, this is gross, but like you could have at least updated it.
it's fantastic though. It was one of the most popular games. Like, all jokes aside, it was an extremely popular game. It was one of the best things to come out of Episode 1, besides Darth Maul.
Yeah.
Pod racing, holy crap. Star Wars, but like, Need for Speed, I'm in.
Yeah, that it'd actually be funny if they did a sequel to Pod Racer, like.
No. A remake? Sure, like, updated
Yeah.
graphics. You can actually throw in a few non-pod racers in there, like the speeder bike, as well as the pod race engine speeder.
So make it more like a kart racer as opposed to like strictly pod racing.
Yes.
I mean that would work. Honestly, I wouldn't mind playing a
Star Wars Mario Kart.
well, not a Star Wars Mario Kart, but like play
Give me the Razor Crest.
So-
Give me the Razor Crest in that Mario Kart.
in which state? The one where it's perfect, the one where it's repaired shittily by fish people, or where it's just a crater.
It's all cosmetic. It doesn't matter.
Like a kart racer would be kind of meh in my opinion, but it'd be fun. It'd be interesting. It'd be a way to get
It
people
won't
on their
happen.
nostalgia. But I wouldn't mind playing a Need for Speed-esque pod racer game where you're a pod racer and you do different play different pod racing circuits across the galaxy. That'd be pretty fun in my opinion. It'd be a way to get the race game sim
Literally
crowd.
Star Wars fluff. Literally Star Wars fluff. Like,
Yeah.
You literally take any generic racing game and you just make it look like Star Wars. Boom! You got a decent game
Yeah.
that will draw in its own niche crowd of hardcore racing gamers as well as Star Wars nerds.
Yeah. Hell.
Play it.
So the one thing I will say, as much as I want a KOTOR 3, what do you think the up and down would be on them doing a remaster of KOTOR 1 and 2?
If they're doing KOTOR 3, we'll probably get an HD remaster on both the Xbox and PlayStations.
Mm-hmm.
In a similar vein to like Final Fantasy 10 and 10-2, or we'll get a straight up version of them, like the PlayStation 1 Final Fantasy games that we got on the marketplaces.
Yeah.
It'll probably be like $10. I mean, technically, you already have that on Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the Xbox One is the not newest one.
Xbox Series X is the brand new one, which is still hard to find.
So Xbox One, I know they had KOTOR 1 and 2 available.
Yeah, those got a backwards
I
ported.
I considered getting an Xbox just to get them because they were Microsoft exclusive. But I feel like now you can take that exclusivity, doesn't matter because they're available on mobile. Like straight up, the game itself is. I have KOTOR 1 on my phone right now.
Yeah. It's also not that. It's not also very inexpensive on PC, and there are mods available to be able to up-res certain textures and character models, as well as add and cut content from the game that's still in the game code.
Which you don't even need. I'm sorry. Look, we're not here to talk about modding.
Well,
Do it.
I'm not saying
Great.
saying we have to talk about it. I'm just saying it's an option available to people that are like, I don't want to play this game. It's old. It's like, fuck you. It's fine as it is. But if you want to really,
there are a lot of people who 100% would drop 10, 20 bucks on both games
yeah,
on a PlayStation. Because there are a lot of people who I know, myself included, who are Sony exclusive consoles. I won't own an Xbox. I refuse. I almost bought one, like an OG Xbox, to buy KOTOR. You know, it was only going to run me like $60 for everything.
yeah. I
And
mean,
I was like, nah.
I mean, it's $10 on Steam right now. I just checked it.
Yeah, I could buy it on my computer.
Yeah.
I can drop $10 on it right now for my phone.
Mhm.
And I actually play it every once in a while.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's one of the, like, KOTOR is one of those experiences as a Star Wars game that, like, it definitely takes a lot of time to, like, get into it. I also think it's, like, the first game that I played straight through where I actually cared about what happened to the characters and my relationships with them. Especially with how the light side, dark side morality system played in with them. Like, oh God, the Mandalorian you pick up. He's not, he doesn't say he's a Mandalorian until, like, you do more of his missions and whatnot. But like,
the bounty hunter that you find is Mando.
Yeah, he's just on the verge of dark side. But if you do enough good choices with him, you can get him just enough on the light side, and like you can do that with every single character. And like I like that. I like that. Like KOTOR introduced in a really interesting way through gameplay elements, like the concept of redemption for people who fall to the dark side. Because, like, that's only something that... Like, the only example we had when KOTOR was out where that was possible was Darth Vader, and he died. Like, KOTOR was the first time we see...
Revan, who actually lived on after becoming a Sith as a Jedi.
And then, when forced out of the Order, he became his own Force user. And, like, became a nexus of, like, neutrality when it came to the whole Jedi-Sith debate. Which then continued in Old Republic MMO, but...
You could even say Revan was Mandalore at one point.
Yeah, he took the helm of Mandalore the Conqueror and completely removed that from the table when it came to how is Crown Mandalore.
Yup. Yeah, Revan was fantastic. So I think if we would ever see KOTOR 3, we would definitely see a re-release at minimum to a full-on HD remaster of KOTOR 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And I don't think they would be Microsoft exclusive because they're about money.
Yeah, I don't think they'd be Xbox exclusive. I think they'd be cross-platform. It'd be like a multi-platform release for that. The one thing I will say though is like if they were to do like a full HD remaster, I would like to see them do a better transition from the first game to the second game as far as like story, because I think that was like the one thing that I noticed myself when playing both, where it was a little bit weak. As far as like going from the first game and ending that one and then going into KOTOR 2. It's like there's not a lot of leeway in for me to like understand what the fuck's going on initially. But like I'm still into the story because you're giving me Kreia and you're giving me all this information and backstory and stuff. But like it takes a while. It takes a lot of gameplay in KOTOR 2 to get into where everything left off with the previous game.
Yep.
So a gentler transition from KOTOR 1 to KOTOR 2 would be great as a great addition as far as what could have been possible cutting room floor content from KOTOR 2. But then again, like it's supposed to slightly be a mystery because of Kreia's origins, but like you also don't hear about the three apprentices until later in the game, when as far as like Revan's apprentices and whatnot. But like I think the likelihood, honestly, of a KOTOR 3 is highly probable because one of the other wonderful announcements that was made was the first release of the High Republic initiative for Star Wars books. Light of the Jedi was released, and it canonized the Great Sith War, and actually gave an affirmed victor in that war being the Jedi.
So a big thing with KOTOR 3, if they were to ever make KOTOR 3, it would absolutely have to canonize KOTOR 1 and 2.
Yep, which we already have stuff from before KOTOR. Yep, sorry.
Well, we've touched on that in
Yeah.
the canon of Star Wars. Like, they've referenced things. We've seen Darth Bane in the Clone Wars as a, Sith ghost.
Yeah.
What is it, Pupper? You want the attention.
Zeke.
He's a good boy.
But yeah, like,
Chew on my sleeve.
because like you're right, we've definitely touched base on it in the canon, but we haven't had like name drops of characters
Outside of Bane
or
himself.
event. Yeah. So like,
Because Bane is the Rule of Two guy. So, the Rule of Two is canon.
yeah, and that's an absolute affirmed,
one.
and it's an absolute affirmed theme in the Clone Wars animated series because it's the main thing that we see. Darth.
It's why Maul turns to Savage, and he's literally like, always two there are.
Yeah, exactly.
A master and an apprentice. When Savage is like, we don't need to dominate one another. We can be equals. And Maul's like, nah, bitch, you're my apprentice. I'm the Sith Lord.
Yeah. And then when the epic fucking fight with Sidious and Maul and Savage Opress, like,
And
oh,
Savage gets
I do not
Savage
see an apprentice or an equal. I see a rival, and just two lightsabers out from the sleeves.
Yeah, I love that. And so that's the one thing that's something I love and hate about Palpatine. Because we already had episode 3, the lack of continuity with him using from 2 lightsabers to 1. I wish they kept it at either 1 or he had 2 in the movie. But that's just a continuity minor gripe that isn't really a continuity issue.
It's more of a preference because like if he feels he needed 2 lightsabers for 2 competent duelists that essentially had his
lightsabers. He needed 2 lightsabers to battle against Savage and Maul.
yeah.
Like, Savage, who isn't actually a Sith in any way, shape, or form, has minimal force power that was given to him by the Witches of Dathomir.
Yeah.
So he's not actually force sensitive. Unlike Maul. Maul actually is a true Sith.
Yeah, it's more or less just fighting 2 competent two competent dark side warriors.
Okay, but he only busted out 1 lightsaber for 4 masters on the council, including Mace Windu.
And
Like,
you know what?
Kit Fisto was a badass. Yeah, he went down like a bitch against Palpatine, like the rest of them.
Okay. But here's the thing with that, though. I think that comes down to a fundamental issue with how George Lucas treated the Jedi Masters in general in the movies, versus
yeah.
the actual things they got in Clone Wars.
Nick, you're absolutely correct. Absolutely. I just kind of wish that Filoni didn't make Palpatine look like he needed both lightsabers, because for a good chunk of that fight, he did need both of them.
But
I kind of wish he just raffle stopped Savage and had that 1v1 against Maul.
I mean, we're also assuming that he
faster
needed
one,
both. We're also making this the assumption that he needed both to fight both opponents when he had more than enough power in the Force just to deal with both of them.
Oh,
He like the one thing we do know about Sidious in the Clone Wars. He likes to fucking play with his food before he kills it, or puts it in a prison.
Sidious, like they've said it multiple times, Sidious hates using lightsabers.
Oh my God! People keep joining. I need to change the thing. Hello, Josh. Nas
absolutely, Nick.
game test.
So Sidious's whole I use a lightsaber is more like I'm doing this to humor you.
I can
Or
do
I
this
have
too.
to kill you fast. Or you have to die fast.
Right, but
In the case
think,
of the 4 Jedi Masters that came to arrest him. Like, if Mace Windu wasn't there, he probably would have just used the Force to kill them. But because Mace Windu was there, and Mace Windu is a devastatingly deadly duelist, like the only lightsaber wielder in the dark side canon to that time was Count Dooku.
right, Dooku was a
Because
beast. of a
Dooku
boy.
trained exclusively in 1v1ing you with a lightsaber. And that's why he gave Savage and Asajj either 2 blades or a lightsaber staff.
Yeah.
Right.
because he felt that they couldn't learn from him fast enough how to be competent with one weapon. So he gave them an unfair advantage just so he can raffle stomp them himself in training.
Yeah.
I mean,
For
the
the
other thing,
record, I agree with the dog.
I do think
he is
that
opinionated.
there are really two opponents that we see Palpatine fight that he did need the lightsaber. Well, three. Windu for sure. I think he 100% needed it against Yoda, but more as a defensive tool than anything.
So the only reason he needed it against Yoda was because Yoda was just as powerful in the Force as him.
I will say though, in the Revenge of the Sith novelization, there's a quote from Yoda's chapter when he's dueling Palpatine. He says that he has not trained for the type of Sith Lord that Palpatine is. He is actually it consistently talks about in his chapter how much he's on the back foot when it both comes to fighting and for like the physical and emotional stakes that are at play with his duel with Palpatine. Because he's like, I was prepared to fight the Sith Lords of old, but not prepared to fight whatever Sidious is. So
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
and the same would go to show for Four Masters plus Windu fighting him, because all Sidious needed was one lightsaber for 5 Jedi Masters, but he probably didn't know about Mace Windu's training using one of the forbidden lightsaber.
He definitely did, because Palpatine is the kind of person who would always be in the know. And at the start of the Clone Wars, literally the opening battle, Mace Windu used the pod to fucking waffle stomp Jango Fett's head off his shoulders.
That's fair. Well, I mean, that's fair, yeah.
Like even if Palpatine wasn't there, which he wasn't, his apprentice was, who saw this, and the master of combat that was Dooku in single combat knew what that was. Like,
Yeah.
Nah, bro, he's good.
Yeah.
Like, Mace Windu was probably the only Jedi that could 1v1 Dooku, without Dooku having, with Dooku being forced to use dirty tricks.
Yeah.
Dooku could 1v1 anyone else that didn't have 2 lightsabers without issue, which is why when Anakin wielded both lightsabers, he had a harder time. He still beat him because Anakin's inexperience did not hold up, but it put him on the back foot for a bit because he had this unfair advantage of being able to strike with 2 weapons versus 1 in a fencing style.
Yeah. And that's talking about their duel in Attack of the Clones, correct?
Attack of the Clones specifically, yes.
Yeah.
because
Later on,
he.
well, remember, later on, he also had a harder time with Anakin with one weapon, but Anakin had also grown with the entirety of the Clone Wars timeline, whether we ever saw it or not, which we eventually did. Anakin had grown in skill and competency with a weapon
Yeah.
because he was always on the front line.
4 years passed that we don't know of between episode 2 and 3.
Before we got the animated series, yes,
Yeah.
about 4 years.
So I mean, like anyone growing up for 4 years in a combat situation, going
Would
from
definitely grow in
experience,
skill.
You're gonna grow in skill, so that's why we see Anakin defeat him, and then
And as we later found out in the animated series, Dooku, while occasionally did take the field as the commander of the CIS, didn't really do it often enough to keep up with his training because he was busy trying to teach Sith apprentices,
Yeah.
which weren't even like he knew they weren't really his apprentice so much as he was going to train them to be his weapons. And that was all they were there for. Like, he was loyal to Sidious 100%. Which you can get that from the Dooku novel,
Yeah.
which is fantastic read. It also has a lot of Sifo Dyas stuff in there, which, is a very important character for Star Wars that isn't touched upon outside of one novel.
Well, when was that novel released, though?
It's canon. I know that much.
Because like we get very little of Sifo Dyas in the Clone Wars, because I'm pretty sure there's a short arc where Obi-Wan actually sees his ghost.
Yeah. The Dooku novel came out in 2019.
So that was a recent release. That would have been around the same time as the new Thrawn novels came out.
It is indeed. It's Dooku Jedi Lost, which is it's an audiobook as well.
Yeah, I think that happened. That's Dooku between Phantom Menace and the beginning of Attack of the Clones, if I remember
Also
correctly.
narrated by a full voice cast, which I assume. Again, I haven't heard the audio book.
Zach.
And my experience has been from other YouTubers and whatnot when I'm just listening in on things. It looks like it was voiced by the Clone Wars cast.
Ooh, that means it's an excellent listen.
Your dog has opinions on this, and I
He
love
does.
them.
He does. And his opinions are, get the fuck off the podcast and pay attention to me.
Father, I crave Bork.
So, also, Joe, in your list of games earlier, did you not like The Force Unleashed?
I forgot about The Force Unleashed, honestly.
Yeah.
Shame on you.
So first off, yes, I did not like The Force Unleashed. I thought the games were poorly written, story-wise, because as far as I was concerned, and this was when it first came out, I was like, Vader would never have an apprentice, would never wouldn't turn on Palpatine willingly. It took Luke to break him, to change him, which is a fact. It never occurred to me that Vader wasn't going to be a loyal servant to Palpatine his whole life until Luke convinced him to come back to the light.
Yeah.
So I never could envision Vader planning to kill Palpatine to rule as a Sith Lord, not just to kill Palpatine to save his son. So the idea of Starkiller being his apprentice, I wasn't cool with it. I thought it was pretty poorly written.
But I mean, but
That
by
said,
that same token, doesn't that kind of just fall into like the default for how the Sith have operated for years at this point, though?
absolutely, but Vader was different. Because, again, aside from Revan, Vader's the only person who returned to the light. So knowing what he did. He only got it for like 3 minutes, but he did.
I say he got there. He's like, I remembered why I left, and they went back to neutral. But like he was there for a few.
Oh, and then he died.
Well, I was talking about Revan.
Oh, yeah. But Revan's the only person who fell to the dark side outright, and then came back from it. Besides Vader.
Well, so just to touch upon it, like, I'm pretty sure the lore actually states he got corrupted. He didn't like fall by his choice.
He didn't choose to fall. Yeah, I mean, like, let's be real here. Anakin got corrupted. He didn't fall by choice. He got tricked.
Yeah.
He got corrupted by Palpatine and his poisonous words.
With a few
Palpatine
dozen
was a
younglings
genius. Palpatine was a genius.
Listen, they called him Master, and he wasn't ready for the shell shock. That's all that happened.
That's true.
The toxicity of the Jedi Order and the way they don't regulate their speech and whatnot led to the deaths of hundreds in the Jedi Temple. That's all their fault.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, it's all so in the again. I'm going to fall back to the Dooku book real quick. The Jedi's fall was all hubris.
Yeah.
They had, on top of building over these Sith relics and whatnot, like it was already like a Sith temple when they first built over it. Then on the level of like outside of the in the temple, but outside of the Sith temple, they built up a special room for Sith artifacts, which became a conduit to the original Sith temple that was beneath it. And oh boy, the Jedi grew complacent in their power, including Yoda.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a good bit of dialogue between Yoda and his pupil Dooku, who Yoda hated Dooku as an apprentice because Dooku strictly was like, I'm going to train to kill the Sith. That is my job in life. And then he fell he quit the Jedi Order and then later fell to the dark side.
Yeah.
Like Dooku actually was Yoda's biggest failing was probably Dooku.
Well,
Not anyone, not anything else, but Dooku.
and it was mostly because Yoda had fallen prey to the hubris and the complacency of the Jedi Order of that period.
And again, the whole like he's got power, he wants to do anything in his power to maintain it. Which is why they agreed not to tell the Senate about their inability to use the Force.
Yeah.
Like Yoda has that line. I think it's I'm not gonna go pull it up. It's not important to the discussion of Star Wars games. In fact, we're way off tangent there.
It's fine. This is a distracted podcast. Tangents are important to the narrative and to the brand.
But like as far as the Force Unleashed went, didn't they like turn Starkiller into a Jedi for the second game?
They gave him blue lightsabers, and they gave him 2 blue lightsabers because it was Force Unleashed 2. But he wasn't. But he was a clone. He wasn't the original Starkiller.
Even worse.
Because
he's been cloned, Lord knows how many times by Vader.
yeah. Plus, it's also one. It's also one of those games that falls prey to we need to make this game interesting by giving you choices, and you can choose the dark side or the light side ending. It's perfectly okay. And like the story continues with the light side ending, so you're giving us an obvious canon ending to this fucking game. Because you're not gonna become the new Sith Lord when you kill fucking Vader, and then you go turn his son over to the dark side, and then go murder Leia and Han and Chewie on Endor. Because we already know what's canon. So don't give us this fucking false choice narrative. Give us something that's interesting to the character.
The Force Unleashed games could never fall within the canon. I'm sure they're fun. I'm sure they're entertaining for the people who enjoyed them. But they could never fall into the canon scope of Star Wars. Because it just doesn't make sense. Especially if you've been reading any of the Vader comics. Holy shit. One of my favorite Vader comics, it's a one-shot where Vader has a new woman in his life. And it's his nurse. And he murders her at the end because, oh my god, she's a psycho.
Yeah.
And it's a one-sided relationship where she's in love with him and thinks he loves her. And at the end of the comic, I'm going to spoil it. So here's your spoiler warning. She goes into Vader's personal chamber while he's sitting there without his helmet on in his setup, his Bacta setup. And she's like, "You don't need to put your helmet on around me." And he's just like, lightsaber on. He's like, "Clean this mess up, somebody."
God damn. I think
like that Vader would never have an apprentice.
I mean, the comics also feature him killing every single attempt that Palpatine has made to try to prevent Vader from ascending any further in power. Because there's always this itch in the back of Palpatine's mind of I don't know if I fully control him. Because there are moments where Vader features a certain level of independence when it comes to his thinking, which most of Sidious's past experiences with his previous apprentices is kind of seen as dangerous or stupid. So you see with the there's 5 dark Sith warrior-esque people that Sidious is oh, Darth Vader trained them, and then they're Palpatine, the Emperor sent us to kill you, and Vader's more bodies to the closet, lights up lightsaber,
Yeah.
And then with his
Vader has been a fantastic comic read all the way through,
as well as his casual disregard for the Inquisitors throughout games. And
I love how he's just y'all ain't shit. You got lightsabers. That's all you got.
It's you're nothing special. You're not the fucking chosen one. Get ready to get fucking tumbled into a fucking dryer. And honestly, if they wanted to do a Force Awakens-esque story in a game and still have Starkiller, they could make him one of the earlier Inquisitors.
He has to be an Inquisitor. Yeah, he would have to be an Inquisitor.
He could be one of the earlier Inquisitors, one of the sisters or brothers that isn't mentioned or talked about by the Inquisitors, And it could be because he betrayed Vader and the Emperor, and could be dead or may not be like around. Like they might have gone like to beyond the Outer Rim or into the uncharted territories or something. Because like that's always a possibility, and that sort of gives people what they want, but also sets it away from the main story. Because a character like Starkiller, in regards to like how he's seen in both Force Unleashed games, would be way too close to the Skywalkers in regards to importance, as far as like what's driven, one of the first Skywalker's whole story through a major part of the series, as far as like plot. But yeah, I didn't even think about Force Unleashed before. Like those were fun games to me. But I also see a lot of their problems when it comes to like everything back when George Lucas ran everything. As far as other things I can think of, what would be a good game? What's everyone else's? What does everyone else? What would you all think of like other sort of Star Wars games? What other games do you think they should try to do?
Star Wars 1313.
That would definitely be a good one to go back to, I think.
Well, so did we already touch upon this, the subject of EA no longer having the rights?
They
do have the rights. They don't have the exclusivity anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the fact that they're losing their hold on it basically does kind of lean me to believe that we're gonna look at LucasArts then like being like, all right, we should probably look at these companies and try and guide them around a proper Star Wars game. So right now, I know that there's rumor mills about an open world Star Wars game.
They officially announced that Ubisoft is doing an open world Star Wars game.
Ubisoft and Ubimassive together.
Yeah,
it's all Ubisoft.
Yeah, and everything in.
I'm hesitant about because I've had issues with the Ubisoft in the past, but I also can be like, all right, well, Ubisoft isn't like the worst company to choose from as well. So we'll see where that ends up, and I feel like just waiting on results on that depends on whether or not we'll see games like my personal favorite would be then to go back to the Knights of the Old Republic because I prefer that era of gameplay. But seeing them use that as a template for future Star Wars games and also basing off that success depends on whether or not they stay with Ubisoft or move on to Obsidian or go all the way back to Bethesda. But Bethesda's kind of, in my opinion, gone downhill more so than usual because they're becoming a EA knockoff.
Fallout 76 was the nail in Bethesda's coffin, which is why Microsoft purchased them.
Yeah, so again, we'll see how this open world Star Wars game works out. I mean, if they basically, my expectation is that they'll basically copy and paste Assassin's Creed.
I already set up like a Mandalorian style bounty hunter-esque game.
It's more of like just like how they're going to do their open worldness. They're probably going to do it similar to how Assassin's Creed has you explore the map. It's my
I don't hate
it's
that.
It's not a bad concept. I think that allows you to be kind of like CJ. I know that we had our disagreement about open world in this last podcast, but like I do feel like a map like the Assassin's Creed probably 3 layout would be very good for the Star Wars centric universe as far as gameplay and keeping you able to explore the map and also do the quest at the same time.
The one thing I would say, as far as maybe not Assassin's Creed 3, but maybe Unity or Syndicate, because we would be with certain planets. Let's say if we went to Coruscant, we'd see a lot more urban environments and indoor areas.
Okay, yeah. So then I'll switch it to more of Assassin's Creed 2, probably Brotherhood. Where you had more of like buildings as well as open fields for Assassin's Creed 3.
Yeah.
But tomato. At the end of the day, it's still the same concept of we'll see how things go with this open world construct, we're not going to probably see it for another year or two for even a video clip of it.
I'd say it'll probably get a 2023 release, especially with how the market in 2020 as far as game releases had a lot of fucking fail to launch games.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially most recently with historical precedents to Cyberpunk 2077. The one thing I will say though, as far as a KOTOR 3 title, I think it's possible, especially when it comes to the Star Wars High Republic initiative being before the prequel trilogy and after the Old Republic era, specifically after the war between the Army of Light and the Brotherhood of Darkness, where you get Darth Bane from. I think what would probably be a good time period for a third game to explore would be around the rise of the Rule of Two.
Which again leads me into saying Knights of the Republic 3, and that's because they could explore where the book goes off about Revan, about how Revan gets captured and has basically become a fucking force battery.
Well, I don't think we'll even think it'll touch back with Revan or his story, because that's what the Old Republic MMO is. I think KOTOR 3 will do something involving Bane, because that'd be the way for Disney to go. We're canonizing the Old Republic. Here's some details that are being changed with a remake, remastered versions of KOTOR 1 and 2 in regards to the new Star Wars canon, and then here's KOTOR 3 with everything that's leading into the High Republic. Because
CJ, that's where Bane basically starts.
Yeah.
The fall of Revan, the actual fall of Revan is basically Bane's birth. So having that be the setting is roughly
it?
Where we
Because I'm pretty sure because Revan is historically further back than Bane, because Bane finds Revan's holocron about the Rule of Two.
Yes. Yeah, they're tied together in the books.
But not through direct interaction. It's only through the holocron, because they're separated by like 1,000 or 2,000 years.
So having them kind of be tied together through what is known already, and then tangenting into something new, wouldn't be that bad of a hop and a skip for the universe, and it would allow some.
All right. So looking at fandom, Wikipedia, Darth Bane, as far as what is concerned with the present Legends books, in regards to his Clone Wars appearance, he was alive a millennium before the prequels, which would be 1,000 years. The High Republic is, I think, 200 years before the prequel trilogy, or it starts 200 years and leading into Phantom Menace.
The High Republic doesn't start then. That's where their storytelling section is currently.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's that's what I mean.
Hear me out. KOTOR 3, Knights of the High Republic.
Oh God, do we even want to go into High Republic?
If I can insert a few things here. Let me start with one. I don't think they'll be naming it KOTOR 3. If they are going to do technically a third installment, with the way that Disney has this specifically set up, I think the way we're going about this is incorrect if they want to maintain any semblance of a timeline. As far as we should be concerned, KOTOR 1 and KOTOR 2 did not happen the way we think they did.
They did not.
If they are going to do anything KOTOR related, they could do a remaster of the game, like you said, and change things here and there. But I think it would be a more drastic overhaul than that. I think what they're going to end up doing is rebooting the series. Not necessarily, from the time we saw KOTOR 1 and KOTOR 2, but make it a whole new thing, possibly in the High Republic. But they also might do it before then, and just consider it an entire reboot, which seems more likely.
So the one thing I will say though, Nick, is they've already confirmed that the High Republic is not the Old Republic. So there's no recanonization, because as I said before when you had joined, the first High Republic novel that was just released, Light of the Jedi, talks about the Great Sith War, and it talks about the apprentice who God, what the fuck is his name?
Uh,
It talks about the Great Sith War, which is thousands upon thousands of years. I think it's like 2,000 years before Revan in KOTOR. So we're already looking at things from even before Knights of the Old Republic, as where it's set timeline wise, already being softly canonized. We're just not being given direct details yet.
CJ, that said, we could still get a full reboot of KOTOR.
Which is,
Canonizing specific things while cropping out some of the stuff they don't want canon.
yeah, because planets like Korriban has been changed to Korriband or Moraband, I think.
They both exist, I thought.
Yeah. So it's I think it's a matter of like name disambiguation as like time goes on, names change, but it's still the same planet. Malachor is Malachor 5 now, according to Rebels, and they name drop a Jedi. They name drop Revan, I think, in that, or like loosely hint towards Revan, because Malachor 5 is the site of the super weapon that you're fighting over in KOTOR 2.
Revan is referenced without name.
Yeah. So there's that.
The only Old Republic canon name is Darth Bane.
Yeah.
Like, for characters, not planets and items.
Yeah.
Like, Mandalore the Conqueror, Mandalore the Great, they could be the same.
Yeah, they could be. There's also, I think, Terrace was referenced in one of the visual guides as far as like planets that exist, which is an Old Republic planet that gets fucking destroyed in KOTOR.
I mean, Tython got recanonized.
Yeah. So there's a lot of
Mandalorian.
there's a lot of things in that are now being recanonized that are from the Old Republic era. I think it's just a matter of them going, how much do we want to say that all of this happened and it's kosher with the timeline because it's so far back that it's fine, and that things, if they're forgotten in the modern timeline that of stories we're already telling now, it's okay because that would be considered lost history.
I mean, when you've got a 9-year gap or a 30-year gap between the height of the Jedi Order to A New Hope, and people don't remember the Jedi.
I mean, it's also a matter of like there's not a lot of people who knew about the Jedi in a lot of the planets, or they didn't hear enough about them.
It's also Imperial propaganda.
Yeah, that too.
Because Vader was actually hoisted around for a very long time in the canon as a Jedi.
Yeah,
Not a Sith,
the only
as a
loyal Jedi.
The only loyal Jedi to the Empire.
Yeah. Especially like if you consider the line in like the A New Hope, it's like you and your beliefs to that old religion, like just sort of the offhandedness that even Imperial officers who would have some sort of
Tarkin worked with actual fucking Jedi.
He knows, but the fucking younger officers don't, because they're like, it's all mythology, and then he gets fucking choked. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot. I live in the Star Wars universe.
But
Also me too.
you know what would also be a great game? A Force of the style game, but it's Palpatine.
That's just old Battlefront.
I'm thinking like the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise told as a game.
I mean, we might be getting that as a show with Acolyte.
Yeah, I say that. I think that's right now going to be a TV series, and then that might spin off a game. I don't foresee.
It'd be interesting, regardless.
Acolyte is also at the High Republic prior to the modern Republic.
Yeah.
It is prior to Palpatine.
Which is why a lot of people are thinking, oh, it's going to be about Darth Plagueis. So I'm like, yeah, that makes sense to me.
He might be in it. He might be in it. He might not.
Because there's so much stuff from like the legends, like what's considered legends now, that like you can just say is kosher. But there's some stuff like Plagueis that you have to be careful of saying yes or no to, because of how close they tie into how close they tie into certain things. Because like we already know Darth Plagueis is canon. Like the name has been dropped, we know about that. But it's more or less like his other apprentices and his master before him that have not been name dropped officially or been written in regards to like canon books. Which, like, if Acolyte is about Plagueis, which kind of looks like it, it would make sense as to like figure out how to fit those narratives from his books into the greater story. Plus, I think it would also give a Star Wars series in any way, shape, or form that make the main character, whether or not they're good or bad, like a one of the alien species, because Plagueis isn't human. He's from the banking clans. But yeah, Eliwick, to go back to your point, I think so. Like with the High Republic not necessarily being like a reboot of the Old Republic, it's well after. I think there is a potential that there's some stuff that's going to be reintroduced and rebooted in High Republic, but I don't think they're going to be set in the High Republic era, because it's supposed to be like the golden age of the Republic and a time of peace leading into the tragedy that is the fall of the Republic.
Right, and I mean that makes sense. I guess there's just a level of frustration that I have right now with this is real and this isn't real and this happened but this didn't happen, and it's one of those weird things where I feel like a lot of fans in general are kind of conflicted with, well, we hope this stays, but I mean I hope they do something with Revan to canonize as much as possible without destroying everything like they did with the last 3 movies. Is really where I'm at.
Well, that's why, like, you made a point on our Discord chat that, you know, what Disney says is official, basically. And it was why I had brought up the conversation I had earlier today with some other fellow deviants. What canon, honestly, in my opinion, doesn't fully matter. At the end of the day, it's a book series with several authors. What you want to take away from it as canon is up to the reader, more than anything else. My opinion is, you know, does this make logical sense? Like, for instance, there is a book about, I'm going to say that the same example I gave in Discord. There's a book about basically forest plants and how they basically made zombies out of the population at one point. The only reason why that couldn't take over the galaxy is because, you know, for some reason the forest plants don't know how to fly a ship, even though they have all the knowledge of the people that they inhabit. That makes no logical sense for the universe, and it feels like it would have appeared elsewhere in the entire book series or whatnot. So to me, it sounds like that is purely isolated amongst the universe, and that's entertaining, but like probably not canon. Whereas something like Revan's back history being explored in the books, and Bane's back history being explored in the books, and so on and so forth, might be more canon because it's while it is high fantasy and it is still kind of like, all right, well, that kind of could explain like what we saw in like in the movies from Disney. So it's like, I'm not saying to discredit sources or discredit certain books. I'm saying that the books, if they make logical sense for the setting of the universe, then they should be considered canon. Obviously, Disney has discredited a lot of the books. Frankly, I think they're just doing it so that way they can be like, oh, we thought of the idea ourselves. When it's like, well, like I just said a little bit earlier, what we had in the movies is really just a lot of force drain going on to keep the dude alive. That's basically what's happening.
I mean, but like the problem with even that is, like, we've had realistically 30 plus years of books written, and all of them have agreed on certain things, and like they destroyed, and a lot of people feel like this, they destroyed Luke in those movies, and then we see, yeah, but then we see him. And spoilers ahead for Mando, because if you haven't watched it by this point, you are late to the game. We see Luke, and he is powerful, and we see him use Force Crush, which it's Force Crush. You can't convince me otherwise.
No. I'm not gonna talk about that. I want to.
You press the sequel trilogy button.
Actually, you did. But it's a theory that's currently out there in relation to Ahsoka. So I will get back to that after Nick is done. I just wanted to put that out there in case I forget. You can remind me.
Yeah, no, I totally want to get to that too. but we see Luke how we saw him in the books. We see him as the badass master Jedi who will wreck people. And we see him there in the Mando like that. And that is how he's supposed to be, honestly, with everything that we've seen. But Disney took that in the movies. And, oh, he's afraid of the dark side. But we just saw him use Force Crush on the thing. Like, no, he's not.
So
We have that
all right.
confliction there.
Now I'm going to interject. First off, on the use of Force Crush, he's not using it on a living being, so I can see why he has no problems using it there. That's neither here nor there to Luke's character using the dark side. Till he starts throwing around Force Lightning, I don't really consider him using dark side powers so much as taking things from the dark side and using it as he is supposed to do as the balance.
So quick question. What would you consider him using in the beginning of Return of the Jedi against the Gamorrean guards?
The Jedi mind trick?
Did he use Jedi mind trick, or was he choking them?
I need to go back and watch that scene. I don't recall.
So so when they walk up and they meet their axes in front of him, he puts his hand out towards both of them, and they both drop their axes and look like they're getting choked.
Yes, but that's also before his affirmation that he is a Jedi. That was when he was still like on that sway, which is why he's wearing all the black.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure I wasn't questioning your validity when it came to the argument of Force Crush being used not on a living being. It was mostly just like if he is supposed to be the balance. So like I would just want to make sure if he was using Force Choke in a way just to asphyxiate and not kill, that it would make sense in that instance.
So I would like to add one thing to that particular thing. The Jedi that we basically got used to in Clone Wars, and that first trilogy, that is not the type of Jedi that Luke is. He's not that goody-goody, I can't use certain powers type of thing.
I know. I've read the books.
Well, no, I know you have. I wanted to throw in that little caveat there, just not for us, but for anyone who may be potentially listening as well. The type of Jedi that Luke is not the Jedi of old, and that is a very important distinction to make when talking about any Force powers Luke uses.
Yeah, because in the legend, what's considered Legends canon now, for those listening, and those who may not know, Luke in the books goes from being Jedi Master to Sith Apprentice, Jedi Master again, Sith Lord, Grey Jedi, back to Jedi Master. In the
I'm use that term in my presence.
I'm sorry, Grey Jedi is a term that's used in conversation amongst fans.
Not
Not as a canon term, but as a concept in theory. It's an easier way to explain. It's an easier way to explain what Qui-Gon Jinn and Ahsoka Tano are.
And Mace Windu for the most part.
And Mace Windu is a true Jedi through and through. That's what got him
So
killed.
no, Qui-Gon is a true Jedi. He is a true Jedi. Unlike the Jedi Masters around him, he is not clouded by the dark side. He is still a true Jedi, though.
It's because he's one that was trying to be trained through the living Force, as opposed to books.
That doesn't make him a Grey Jedi.
I'm not saying that he is a Grey Jedi because of that. And what I'm saying is that when it comes to old expanded canon terms, that's what he was described as until we got newer information to canonize the concept but not the term.
Nonetheless, he's still just a Jedi. Unlike Ahsoka, Qui-Gon is a Jedi.
Ahsoka would nowadays be considered more like a light side warrior.
Speaking of Ahsoka, so the current theory out there, and again, this is just a theory, and one I wouldn't put past Disney going through with because of the negative feedback of the sequel trilogy, is the sequel trilogy comes from the timeline where Ahsoka dies.
There's a lot of people that are hoping that.
Well, here's the evidence behind that. What we know of from the sequel trilogy of Luke Skywalker is his first Jedi apprentice. This is from the novelization, as well as minor confirmation from him in The Last Jedi, I believe. I might be wrong. It might be The Rise. It's been a while since I've seen them. But Luke didn't train a single person outside of Leia in the ways of the Force until Ben Solo, 10 years after where we are currently in Mando.
Yeah.
So 10 years after 9 ABY. Which means that because Ahsoka lived, Din Djarin was able to find her and was able to bring Grogu to Tython and have Grogu call upon Luke. Which has now changed that fact. 10 years early, Luke has his first apprentice. That
Not
isn't Leia.
necessarily.
This is also just a theory, not like
Right.
true to
Again,
form.
This is the theory, and based on the current Mando canon, Grogu has gone with Luke to become a Jedi. That is why
That's
Grogu
a
asked
lot
for
of
permission.
Okay, so
No,
I will say one thing in favor of what Joe is saying, Eliwick. The entirety of the Rise of Skywalker spent 3/4 of the film trying to retcon shit from the previous movie. So it's not beyond the writers of Star Wars and like the runners of the brand to try to reset things that were made as decisions in previous films. To say that it's not accurate, that this could be an actual thing that's happening, especially where Dave Filoni basically gave us Ahsoka Tano as a fully fleshed character between the Clone Wars and Rebels, and at the end of Rebels we see her alive being pulled away through a time gate essentially from her almost deadly duel with Darth Vader. Shows that there is a means of actually resetting canon through time shit.
There's a canon way to do it, but specifically on Grogu with Luke. Grogu asks for permission to go with Luke from Din, which Luke translates because he speaks through the Force.
Yeah.
Because Grogu doesn't words yet.
Grogu's doing his best.
Grogu's 30 years old. He's doing his best. He's 50. That's right. I'm sorry.
He's like 1.5.
In Yoda years. So
Yoda was never his real name. It was actually the name of the species.
racist you are. My name is not Yoda.
But I
But
mean,
no.
yes, we see Luke take Grogu. Now,
With Grogu willingly searching for Luke, because Grogu is smart. He is a 50-year-old child, but he is an intelligent, sentient being who understands what's going on.
except when he almost committed genocide.
No,
What?
he knew.
What?
Oh, when he ate the frogs?
Hmm?
I was so confused. I was just like, what? Like, okay, genocide means the entirety of the species. Their species is rare, but they're not the last pair.
They were.
They were?
actually the last of their race.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, oh, Grogu's committing genocide. That's neat.
That's normal.
Now, at the time, he did not know that they were, and when he was eating them, they were unfertilized. He was eating your average run-of-the-mill frog egg.
As one does.
I mean, ooh, look at these delicious treats.
Nothing says good morning like an extra large tapioca.
And once they were fertilized and he saw that they were developing as babies, he was like, I'm not hungry anymore.
Shit, I'm
I mean, he was
sorry.
still hungry, but he wasn't going to eat them anymore.
And the one that was born is just looking at him and like, you ate my unfertilized siblings.
And like Luke also speaks with Grogu in a way that the same way Ahsoka does, in a way that Grogu has utter comprehension, pure and true comprehension, because they're speaking through the Force.
So
That is how Ahsoka spoke with him, and that is how Luke spoke with him. Which means that Grogu is fully aware that he is going to be trained by Luke as a Jedi with his old friend R2D2. You know R2 knew him because of the R2's reaction to seeing him.
which is definitely odd.
It's just the way to say yes, he was around then. R2 confirmed it. Don't question it.
R2 is the longest living sentient being throughout the entire series, and he hasn't been killed.
Or
Technically-
memory wipe like C-3PO.
Yes, well, that was in a way killing him. Each iteration of 3PO is different.
Yeah.
Which is why you have a battle-hardened 3PO at one point who gets memory wiped and is no longer battle-hardened.
Yep.
That's the story about the Red Arm.
Yep. That was a cool comic book.
That was. But, because Luke took Grogu, even if Grogu isn't aware of what's going on, Luke answered a call from the Force 10 years before he was supposed to take his first apprentice.
So yeah,
He's taking Grogu. Likely with the intentions of training him as a Jedi.
I mean, he says the fucking famous quote, "Talent without training is waste." Like,
Boom!
Whether or not the training actually happens, though, is another matter.
He's going to train him,
this is
or at least attempt to. He's
I-
going to take his first apprentice. Whether it's successful or not is neither here nor there.
I think so. Like, before you speak, Eliwick, you also said that what we saw in Mando of Luke is Jedi Master Luke. He has the ability to stay away from the Imperial remnants and hide himself in Grogu away, and basically stop anyone from trying to take him.
He is the best of the best, and he's going to train him like a proper Jedi.
He is, for all intents and purposes, right now the last Jedi, until he trains Grogu.
Except for Leia. No,
But-
there is another.
Yeah, but Leia's politicking right now, mostly out of fear that her son's gonna fall to the dark side.
So I think the more likely scenario, truthfully, is that we're going to see something with Thrawn and Grogu. Honestly, we know Thrawn is going to be introduced very, very soon, and it's most likely going to be in the Ahsoka series.
They already have a casting. Lars Mikkelsen is reprising his role as Thrawn from his voice role in Rebels. He is taking the physical role now as well.
Which, yay.
Like Katie Sackhoff had already done.
Yep.
But I disagree. Thrawn's not going to have anything to do with Grogu.
Thrawn is the heir to the Empire. He doesn't give a shit what Moff Gideon is doing. Moff Gideon's probably more or less likely a threat.
Remember, Thrawn, as far as we canonically know about him, has been gone since before the Battle of Yavin, up until when Ahsoka finds him.
Right, which... So, I
He
mean...
doesn't care about Palpatine. He never has.
No, he doesn't.
Because if he cared, Grand Admiral Thrawn, as we canonically know from the sequels, I hate it, would be with the First Order, or the Final Order, helping raise the Final Order.
Yeah. Which would mean that he'd be in the uncharted territories.
Correct. And until we get the Ahsoka show to confirm or deny this, which I don't think we will, because I don't remember the canon name for them, but the Yuuzhan Vong 2.0 are his biggest problem. The whole reason he joined the Empire in the first place was for their Imperial might to fight back the Yuuzhan Vong, which they kept canon with a new name.
You know, that would be...
I feel like, so here's my I was asked last night for an art commission to depict how I view we're gonna find Ezra Bridger,
And I have two thoughts on this. We're either going to find a 10-year older. Because it was what negative. It was just before the Battle of Yavin when he disappeared.
Yeah.
So a 10-year older Ezra, who is either a broken prisoner / servant of Thrawn, because Thrawn's a mastermind who could pull that off, or a willing ally of Thrawn because of the enemy that Thrawn is fearful of. Like, not allies as in their friends, allies of necessity.
Sort of like how the galaxy was at the time of the Yuuzhan Vong War.
There is a third, very, very slim possibility as well. We see them go off, and Star Wars hasn't done it very frequently, minus the Clone Wars. Or no, that was Rebels.
The Cologne Wars.
Shut
The most
The
most smelly of the galactic insurrectionist movements known to man.
Wait, was that the Colon Wars or the Cologne Wars?
The Cologne Wars.
Okay.
They were fighting the Cologne Wars, and then the Cologne Wars started to try to solve the Cologne Wars because of the smell. It was bad.
It was
That makes
awful.
sense.
But
All right, but what's your theory?
there is a third possibility that they might have almost wormholed and come back 10 years later the same age.
Also possible.
He also could be like the Doctor in the sense that he's been doing his time hopping for so long that he retcons the sequel trilogy and brings us what we want, which is essentially the Yuuzhan Vong War. Because
we're getting Yuuzhan Vong War. They're just being renamed. I don't remember what they're called now, but they have been canonized.
you
When were they canonized?
need to find that link for me so I can look at it. Because damn, I need to know.
Hold on, Joe, when were they canonized? I'm out of the loop apparently.
I'm pulling them up.
How dare you? Also, how dare you make fun of me for my speech patterns? It's not my fault I'm stupid.
I know it's fine. We're all stupid. We all float too. Shut up, Josh.
From Thrawn Alliances, the Timothy Zahn book, the Grisk.
The Grisk.
They are essentially the Yuuzhan Vong with a new name.
They just sound like large amphibians. Like Brisk.
Sorry, the kid from the Basque.
I mean, I'm just saying. But I don't know.
So yeah, they are on Wikipedia officially.
Yep, they come from the Thrawn, Grand Admiral Thrawn Alliance book.
Thrawn Ascendancy, Chaos Rising, Thrawn Treason. As far as from the books that they were further explored in. Distinctions:
Here's-
wide shoulders, angled brow ridges, tapered skull, deep set eyes. Yeah, that sounds like the fucking Yuuzhan Vong.
Yep, they are extremely similar in appearance to the Vong. They've just been renamed. Probably because Yuuzhan Vong sound fucking racist.
Yeah.
No.
Here comes Imperial China to take over the galaxy.
I mean,
The one thing I will say though is I'd love to see more of the Chiss involved in the universe.
I'm pretty sure Thrawn's the last one.
Is he the last?
Pretty sure. I might be wrong. Like that's something I think I read somewhere that might not be factual.
I mean,
Either he's the last one or he's the last free one. They might be slaves.
I mean, here's another question as far as Thrawn's concerned. How sure are we that he's going to do First Order and not his own thing?
So that's the thing. He isn't. He's gonna do his own thing. If he was gonna if he cared even a little bit about Grogu, he'd be with the Final Order at the beginning of setting up the Rise of Skywalker. He doesn't care about Palpatine. He doesn't care about the Empire. He only wanted them for their technological superiority. Death Star weapons. Which is why
and this is a canon fact from those books, the Star Destroyers of Rise of Skywalker are all equipped with the Death Star laser, was Thrawn. He was like, fuck the Death Star, put this weapon on all your Star Destroyers.
Yeah, the fucking he was adamantly opposed to the Tarkin doctrine, which is what built the fucking Death Star. It's like if
Are you blind?
It's like like honestly, because like look at it, the First Order with the Force Awakens is literally following Tarkin doctrine because they took an entire fucking planet and made it into a Death Star.
Oh, look, an actual planet.
and I
Still no moon.
and actually to tie it back to our video game conversation a little bit, I'm pretty sure the fucking planet that is the planet that the fucking Starkiller base is made from is the fucking planet that the Jedi used to go to for the younglings and the Padawan learners to get their kyber crystals. It looks like Ilum though. It hella does, because you go to a planet that's supposed to be Ilum in Jedi Fallen Order, and it's being worked on by the.
It is Ilum.
I just want more Wookiee younglings. That's all I want.
Hey, yeah, no, I was absolutely wrong. It is Ilum.
Because they're working on building Starkiller base in Jedi Fallen Order. And then it becomes Starkiller base, 30 years later. 30, 40 years later, rounds about.
Yep.
Also, Josh, were you going to say something?
I think Josh is dead. We killed him.
Josh is playing Moemon.
God damn it, no. But yeah, I think a big thing. I think if anything that happens in the Ahsoka series in regards to Thrawn, I think it'll be closer to the original Thrawn trilogy of novels that we got out of Timothy Zahn, without like any of the Skywalkers or Han or Leia being involved.
Oh, but I miss Rey Skywalker.
I hate you. I'm gonna punch you in the dick next time I see you.
That was the point of that.
I think one of the few things I want to see is a red fucking Star Destroyer. Just because I like a lot of the Imperial Remnant looks of the different fleets under the different Grand Admirals.
I'm also just glad that they did Boba right. Because I am sick of the Fets being treated like
Absolute shit.
garbage.
Yeah. I think we'll get more out of him come the book of Boba Fett.
No, we're not gonna get anything on Boba. Come the Book of Boba. Come on, let's be real here.
Also, can I just say one thing? In regards to Boba, anyone making fun of him for being old or overweight is an asshole.
Absolutely. First off,
Just the internet hate that he's gotten for looking, because the dude's like what, in his 50s, 60s at this point?
so here's the thing. They don't talk shit about him once he's got his clean armor on because he don't look fat. What it was is a lot of people didn't realize is he put on the flight suit piece, not the flight suit, the vest of his armor that his armor's attached to, over his robes. Like he didn't get changed; he threw it on over what he was wearing, which is why he had all that extra padding, and he had on a black version of the goddamn Sand People costuming.
Right, but screw
Like
those
that's
people
layers
making fun
of
him.
robes he threw his gear over. So for anyone who called him fat, you're wrong. Yeah, he's not a skinny young man anymore, but he's also not fucking 20 years old, 30 years old. He's 50.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even if he was a bit overweight,
Dad
screw
bod
you
Boba
anyway
Fett
for
like
calling.
that.
Yeah, screw you for calling him out for it. Like, just don't be an asshole. Sorry, I just had to get that out there because that pissed me off.
Look, I don't know Josh, but the other three of us in here, we're all fat kids. So like, yeah, don't fat shame people. Don't be a dick.
I'm the smallest one among us.
Sounds sus.
Fucking vent.
Super nuts.
See, you know why we didn't vet? We're too fat.
Also, because the vent probably has spiders, and spiders are scary.
As long as
More,
they're not the.
more importantly,
Go ahead.
more importantly, the is mostly at Nick. What should I call my Moe Charmander?
God damn it.
Suki.
And kill Nick while you're at it.
Yeah, I went with the Bulbasaur because I thought the Bulbasaur design was absolutely fucking like adorable.
I don't believe he's actually playing.
Also, I should have asked CJ. Swearing's okay on your stream, right? Because if not, I'm sorry.
Fuck no.
I have a content warning for a reason. Like,
I
shit.
was just making sure because you did one without a content warning by accident before, didn't you?
Huh?
Like, is it you I'm remembering that was a thing with where you didn't add the content warning by accident, or was that Pat?
That was me.
Oh, that was you. Okay. All right.
That was me, and that has been changed. I'm also not streaming this because I came in halfway through.
Yeah, that's fine.
No, I just wanted to make sure because I forgot.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I swore a couple times. Whoops.
Yeah, it's fine. Like, if, like, me streaming this, if you guys aren't streaming right now, if you guys have, like, hosting stuff with my stuff, it'll be there.
Oh, yeah, I'm hosting your channel.
Yeah.
Channel. I also do have to get going. I have to take a shower because it's date night, baby.
Oh, good luck with that, bud.
Yeah, thanks. I'm going to go cry and do horribly as I usually do.
I didn't realize this was a solo night, bud.
Wow. All right,
I love you, man. Good luck, though, in all honesty.
He has the mirror set up and everything.
Wait, the one on the floor, the one on the ceiling.
Nick, is your date tonight?
Yeah, it is.
When?
7-ish.
Alright, I vote we kick Nick off the stream now so we can go shower and get ready.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm saying bye and leaving. Thank you
Good,
for having
get out
me.
of
Yeah, of course. So thanks for joining us.
And just to plug in, make sure you guys check out Ellie with Bolt Run on Twitch. Loves and kisses.
Yee.
Ooh.
He
As he left.
I didn't hear what you said.
can't defend himself. He's no longer present.
I was like, ooh.
But yeah, I'm incredibly optimistic with what we're getting out of Lucasfilm Games, as well as the potential now that they've clarified what the High Republic Initiative is. Because for the longest time, I sort of thought, as Nick did with or Eliwick did, as far as like they're gonna completely change the Old Republic narrative. But now that they've confirmed, they still might. But there's a lot of evidence suggesting that they're not. That this is gonna be the lead. This is gonna be the transition that Disney has been looking for to make a lot of what is in the Old Republic games and stories canon in a way that makes it palatable for people who are fans as well as newcomers to Star Wars as a brand to get accustomed to those things and be introduced in a way that is not diving into the cold end of the pool. Because we already know Star Wars lore is deep. There's no kiddie side or gentle decline in the pool. It's just all deep water. It's just whether or not it's something you're used to, where there's a lot of people, which makes the water warmer, or it's just a lot of shit that very few people know about going in, and it's colder. So I think this might be like their marketable way of introducing Old Republic canon and ideas without having to redo everything that's already been done in the Old Republic. It's just a matter of setting up the timeline and making sure everything fits neatly. Because like I think the only thing Old Republic-wise that would need to be explained is the Darksaber.
And it doesn't need to be explained. It's already been canonically explained.
Well, yeah, it's
The first and only known, keywords
only known, yeah.
Mandalorian to be capable of using the Force. And this is a Mandalorian probably by birth, not by creed.
Yeah.
If we take the Old Republic and whatnot, their creed as still canon,
Yeah.
kind of looks like it is with the Foundlings.
Yeah.
To some extent, at least. Mandalore, he was the only born Mandalorian canonly known to have Force powers and actually become a Jedi. There could be Mandalorian Sith. There could be other Mandalorian Jedi who built traditional lightsabers. I think the one thing that needs to be explained about the Darksaber is if the Kyber Crystal is dead or not.
I personally think the Kyber crystal isn't dead. I think it's fully crystallized Beskar. Sort of like how
So
Sort of like-
asynthetic crystal.
maybe not a synthetic crystal. So like sort of like how
Kyber crystals can be synthetic, though most Sith choose to bleed a living Kyber crystal.
because it shows
So
their dominance over the Force. I think what it is that like sort of like how you could take the Krayt Dragon Pearl you get in KOTOR and make that your Kyber crystal or your support crystal for your
Not
saber.
canon, though, but it's not canon. You
Not
can't-
not
I know. You
I
want
know. I know. I'm saying it's not canon presently, but
to. Using Beskar as his crystal doesn't make canonical sense.
so the way I will
So what we know about Beskar.
so my theory about that mostly is how in real life history we have these wonderfully crafted in almost untarnished swords that are made of Damascus steel, and the way they do make it is by heating the metal up to a point to where it starts forming crystals within the atomic structure itself, which is why you get all the wavy lines. So my thinking is because of how rare Beskar is and how unique it is as a metal in the galaxy, if the Mandalore that was the maker of the Darksaber,
Paz Vizsla?
yeah,
Tar Vizsla.
if Tar Vizsla had one of the few examples of crystalline Beskar and used that as a lightsaber crystal instead of traditional Kyber, which is why it's so unique.
I'm gonna disagree with you harshly because you're using Damascus steel as an example for an alien substance when specifically for making it it's a crystal. I'm not saying it isn't necessarily Beskar, but it's not crystallized.
The only
we've seen what happens with Beskar.
the
We've seen them molten Beskar.
So the only reason why I think it's crystallized Beskar mostly is because of his fight with Moff Gideon and how the pure Beskar spear interacted with it, because so like Beskar isn't lightsaber proof, it's lightsaber resistant, it can still heat up, but in his fight with Ahsoka and like the different holds that happened, none of his Beskar gauntlets weren't damaged. So because of the intensity of the fight with Moff Gideon, the only reason why I think that it's a Beskar crystal rather than traditional Kyber is mostly because of how the pure Beskar spear interacted, because we know that's 100% pure Beskar.
Well, if you compare the fight scenes, which I'm absolutely willing to go back and rewatch to compare, Ahsoka's lightsaber does not rest on the Beskar
For very long. That's what I will.
for
That is
nearly as long as
yeah.
as the
That's
Darksaber.
that's definitely one thing. That's definitely one thing I will concede on. I'm just saying, as far as with how hot we know lightsabers are meant to be, because they can cut and cauterize a limb wound simultaneously without effort.
Okay, I'm going to stop you from ever trying to apply any physics to a lightsaber, because a real lightsaber, if it were to be made,
Would be
kill you. If you
yeah,
had
it would be
it in
impossible.
your
Yeah,
body. You would atomize. So
yeah.
no, stop trying to science it. You're wrong. You can't science this because science says you'll die.
So
Josh input.
Josh
Yeah.
input.
Josh input. So we do have a scene in Clone Wars that describes getting the crystal. It could just be that the creator of the Darksaber had a similar experience. It could be a Beskar alloy, as CJ is suggesting. It could be just something else that was found through the Force to make this lightsaber. Also, while the crystal is probably unique, we do not know if the construction of this lightsaber, because it's so different than the ones we've found, could also be unique as well, therefore giving off different traits such as the Darksaber coloring. So until we have some form of lore created behind it, speculation is the best we can do. So you're both right, you're both wrong.
I'm going to say in agreement with you here on some things. Very specifically, we know that the dark saber has been built differently than a Jedi lightsaber. And that's not saying it wasn't used. They didn't use the Force to physically craft it, because obviously that's neither here nor there. That's
There's a
usually
lot
what
of
a
lore
Jedi
behind,
does.
there's a lot of lore behind of how the Jedi craft a lightsaber,
But if you
generally
look at the shape of the dark saber,
it's square. It's square.
It is the yeah. Every other lightsaber we've seen, every single one is round.
And the funny thing is, I think it's the only lightsaber that actually has a defined edge. So edge alignment is
is.
important with it. It's as if a Mandalorian perfected the crafting of a lightsaber and only ever did it once.
Yeah.
Because weapons are their religion.
Exactly.
So weapons,
Precise.
weapons are their
Precisely.
religion.
Which-
we also do see a lot of angular with Mandalorian culture, which probably led to the more square design.
I'd also bet that the hilt of the darksaber is pure Beskar.
That I would not doubt that
Yep.
whatsoever.
Yeah, I can see that entirely. It also would explain why it has survived as long as it has.
which is why I heavily believe that the darksaber itself, every single aspect of its construction is Beskar related, because it's a Mandalorian that crafted it.
Yeah, I'm just saying I don't believe it's crystallized Beskar. It's either a dead Kyber crystal, because that would give it the unique black blade. That would make sense. Like
Wild
a
card.
truly dead black blade, or it's just Beskar as a
Wild-
synthetic crystal. Wild card.
Wild card. There's not a traditional crystal inside it that we know of, like not dead or alive. Because it's square, it might actually be a crushed up crystal, which is why it ripples the way it does.
Which would also give it that credence to it's a dead crystal because it's broken up to pieces.
Yeah. So I, especially because it's square, I don't think it's a standard crystal by far. It is probably a broken up one and potentially a broken up one that is also a dark or dead crystal.
What we do know about the coloration of a lightsaber blade comes down to the Force user and their relationship to the Kyber crystal. This is specifically for Jedi. When they get their Kyber crystal, before it's even put into their lightsaber, they are to meditate with the Force in the crystal to give it its distinct hue, which is why Mace Windu has that unique purple color, because it can sense the dark side in him without him bleeding it.
Yeah, to interrupt it, isn't there some lore behind Mace Windu and how he gets empowered by his opponent?
Yeah, it's the Vapad fighting style.
Yeah,
He's tapping into the dark side of the Force to do it. Yes.
Yeah, so that's why we have the color of red and blue combined, aka purple.
Also, Samuel L. Jackson just wanted a unique ass lightsaber, and he got it.
Yeah,
But they gave a canon explanation as to why.
he lucked out and chose the one color that is both sides of the conflict. So yeah, it gives him canon. Which I don't know if he knew that or just wanted the purple one. Either way,
He just wanted the purple one. That's been officially said in interviews.
Either way, it made me okay with his character more. It led to the canonization of freaking Revan having purple lightsaber, or decanonization or whatever. But that's not the point here. Purple's my favorite color.
We all know why Luke has a green lightsaber. It's because blue didn't show up on the background.
Yeah.
You're right.
But no, like they later went in and canonized through a Jedi's communication with their lightsaber with their kyber crystal in their training would determine its color, which is why you'd have a blue or a green. I believe yellows are synthetic.
No,
Yellow
they're a yellow and orange and gold and silver are very unique kyber crystal types. They're more rare because they require a very specific person to be attuned to the Force, which is why Sentinels, the Jedi Temple Guard, have the same lightsaber color, because they all follow that unique subtype.
Okay, so yeah, you're right. It's not synthetic. It's the predestination by the Force.
Yeah, the big thing about a lot of the canonization efforts that has been happening on Disney's behalf is that they cut out synthetic crystals entirely by inventing the concept of bleeding.
They cut them out and then they reintroduced it.
What is real? What is fake?
They reintroduced it through like some walls of text.
Yeah.
Because Savage, Asajj, their lightsaber crystals, like, their lightsaber crystals were synthetic. Dooku didn't go out and bleed some random kyber crystals from some Jedi he killed. He's never killed a Jedi prior to Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And that's why specifically Grievous doesn't have red lightsaber blades.
He also isn't attuned with the Force. And he
No,
can't.
but like when Dooku gave him his first lightsaber, it wasn't bled.
Yeah.
Dooku gave him his first one, and then gave him a second one, and then Grievous collected more.
He collected more.
You get to have these two. Hold on to them. I might
Yeah.
need them one day. And then he's like,
so
I'm going to
he
seek
gave
out
him
more.
one with the intents and purpose of training him to fight like a duelist, to fight like he does. And this is all from the book.
Yeah, and then Grievous is turned out to be too much of a
garbage with a single saber, so he gave him a second one, which is why he ended up doing the same with Savage and Asajj. Savage he gave a dual-bladed saber, mostly because of Maul,
Mhm.
and that was more like to poke at Sidious in a playful way. He took his master's first apprentice and made him his bitch, be a Zabrak using the same style of weapon. That was more of him going, here's me asserting dominance as a Sith to appease my master by taking Zabrak and making them look like shit.
I'm trying to be better than you. That's basically the entire purpose there. It doesn't work out, though. But, you know, he tried.
But, like, he gave them different styles of lightsaber weapons because they needed an advantage to combat a trained duelist. And while Dooku was the most trained, he knew there were Jedi that were skilled, that existed out there. Qui-Gon was an exceptionally skilled Jedi because he fucking trained him himself.
yeah.
And the fact that Maul killed his apprentice with a double-bladed lightsaber showed him the advantage to fighting dirty.
Yeah.
I mean, let's also be real. Obi-Wan, why didn't you just use Force speed? Come on. You see it early in the film. You can do it. Moving on from that fact, though, yeah, we see it consistently with a lot of games, but what it comes down to is that lightsaber combat ends up being a who is more skilled and who has more lightsaber. There is one or the other with most combats.
And then Grievous gets his ass whooped by one
And then
lightsaber with four.
Grievous is the exception. I have 4 lightsabers and I can't block one.
No. Pong Krell is the other exception. I have 4 double-bladed lightsabers, and I lose to a bunch of clones.
I mean,
Pong Krell was also a
like,
bastard.
We don't
He
talk
lost the
about
clones
yeah.
with blasters.
That's
With
that's why
blasters.
That's why we don't talk about him, because he wasn't even good enough to block blaster bullets with the Force. And some emo child in freaking episode 7 can just send it back at the person.
I mean, like, I love the idea of... So that was one of the best things they did with some of the Force effects, such as Kylo Ren stopping the blaster bolt midair with the Force.
Or the Force choke into real choke.
Yeah, that was beautiful. I wanted Vader to do that so bad, and he never does.
I think that's why. I think a lot of fans were like, hey, we always wanted to see, like, Force choke into my mechanical hand to fully choke you.
Yeah.
To perfect.
Like,
So
like
let's
I could
have
do this
guy-
with the Force, and I could kill you, but I'd rather do it with my hands. It's like, oh, that's evil.
again, they had him become the wannabe new Darth Vader that was like trying to one up him. So the benefit is that he still had all his limbs. So like the lore behind it is a fully bodied person is slightly stronger than a non fully bodied person, with some exceptions, obviously. So the reason why we
That's the
see
midichlorians for you.
yeah, like let's throw it back to that for a few seconds. Clearly, more force deprived, more force symbiotes in a body create a better understanding with the force. Clearly,
It
makes
strengthens
sense.
your connection. That's all it does.
So, uh, so him doing some things that like Darth Vader couldn't do as well, was definitely like, hey, look, I'm the new Darth Vader. I'm better. But then it's just like, oh well, Vader also had way more experience than you. Stop trying to be better than him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Look, Kylo Ren was not a good character. The sequels, in my opinion, were bad as a whole. They have moments that I enjoy.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I mean, every set of films, there's always going to be something you like, something you hate. It's just that these sequels kind of had more hate than neutral or like, and it's just kind of that's why we're getting so much backlash. It's why I think I remember reading a article saying that people were asking to decanonize the sequels and remake
and I think
them.
in a way, Filoni and
Yeah.
Favreau are doing so, not decanonizing them so much as making them an alternate timeline, the timeline where Ahsoka died.
Yeah, which I mean,
Get
like,
back to that point.
if we see that become anything, then great. Because I definitely would like to see them do better. I think that they're like I think the actors themselves were fine, right?
Oh yeah,
I don't
Daisy
think-
Ridley was fantastic. I loved her portrayal of the character. I don't like the character how it was written, but she played it well.
Yeah, and I think that for the most part, every actor in there just does deserve to go into like a remake of it. It's just like remake it into like something that makes sense with what happened in the events of 4 through 6.
The
I
movie
actually
should have
would-
been their own. Like,
I actually wouldn't mind the Palpatine plot that they did, where he ends up still being alive and trying to recreate the order and all that jazz. That's not terrible. That's not a bad plot line to like be like, hey, we're making we're remaking the Sith Empire to be another force to be reckoned with, but instead of it being like to conquer the galaxy again, make it to be like, hey, we're making it because we see another threat. Similar to how the books made it out to be.
get the Grisk in there.
Yeah, I think that the sequels would have benefited from a third-party entity, whether it's the Grisk or not. By name, is just a entity from beyond the current known realms. Make it expand your universe instead of trying to have it come compacted again. We've already seen the universe at war with itself throughout.
I would have loved
films?
so if they had, without changing the Force Awakens, if they had taken the second movie, The Last Jedi,
Mhm.
and really brought in a third opponent and forced the First Order and the Republic to like ally up, it would have been a whole different perspective. It would have been a great thing because then you would have had a dark side user and a light side user working together actively to bring balance while fighting this greater threat.
And heck, we could even have seen the same end scene to, was it Last Jedi, where we see the two fight and then the ship blow up?
Yeah, they break Anakin's lightsaber.
Yeah, we could even still see that towards the end after fighting the third party.
And then the final movie, that wasn't the full army. That was like a small force. And here's Palpatine and Thrawn with the final order.
Like, which is it's like in every video game where your enemy gets way too big too fast, and you're like, oh, please don't come after me next. Please don't do it. And you have that same concept, but and it still could have had even the same exact ending if we just had the third party entity, and it would have made a much more tremendous experience, I think.
I agree entirely. Again, we can go back and rewrite these movies all we want.
Yeah, we can. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. That's what the point of the podcast is.
All right, get me. All right, guys. So you heard it here live. Donate to my Kickstarter.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
To my Kickstarter, I am in fact a disabled war veteran who knows how to explain movies better than professionals. I accept Starbucks, Bitcoin.
I'll also take gift cards to Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so I've already forgotten our original topic of conversation. It's awesome to be distracted.
Well, last thing I remember, at least me referencing into, was a lot of stuff with the High Republic, but we've also been walking around that topic of conversation for a long time. So
As far as the High Republic goes, I know that books, like the book series, just like I think recently finished or is wrapping up. So I would have to read into those books to.
So they just started the High Republic books. The first book that was just published this month with The Light of the Jedi.
Was that the
Yeah,
first?
like real talk.
Yeah.
I could swear I saw the other
discuss
thing.
the High Republic outside of like what I'm hopeful for and what little bits I've seen, because I haven't read the books yet. They're new. They just came out. Like a few friends of mine got theirs
You'd be
a
surprised.
week early, and they just came out.
Yeah, they plan on
Yeah, I say there's
next month.
the High Republic, Light of the Jedi, Into the Dark, The Rising Storm, and Out of the Shadows.
Oh, yeah, right,
So there's
right.
4.
Yeah, they all just came out.
Yeah. So
Like,
based off of that, I mean, it just like Joseph said, like it just came out. Like I would have to read into them. So depending on what happens with that, also would be like I don't even know like what time frame era is. I have it on my Amazon list for when it drops in price and bundles, ideally. But I'm at the point where it's like this sounds to be like between Old Republic and the timelines that we know as for the Skywalker sagas. Probably, if I had to guess, probably 1,000 years ago.
the High Republic starts about 1,000 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So like
We have young Jedi Knight Yoda in the High Republic, so it's at least within a 900-year frame.
I mean, so yeah.
Because
So
Yoda's only 900 and something.
if we have young, I'm gonna guess between ages 200 and 300. 'cause
So
considering-
so to clarify, High Republic is between 300 BBY and 82 BBY.
Those are just numbers to me.
So BBY is before Battle of Yavin. So 82 BBY would be just before the prequel trilogy.
So Yoda was born in 896 before the Battle of Yavin.
So we're seeing middle-aged Yoda.
I don't think he can
We're gonna
legally
so
say in
if-
case something like that actually happens.
If Grogu, at the age of 50, is still a toddler, he's got to be within a couple hundred years old when he's a Jedi Knight. Maybe 500 is where we're seeing it. I don't know.
What?
Was the
No.
Light of the Republic?
I certainly wouldn't point
Well,
in your
so yeah,
direction.
let's say I think Light of the Republic is the first one, and that is probably set at the start at the 380 you said, CJ, something like that. So if that is roughly the same time frame in comparison to with Yoda's birth, then we're looking at like 500, 600-year-old Yoda. So he's probably at this point effectively a Jedi Knight, maybe a Master, but just not on the Council.
He'd be. I think it's been confirmed that he's a knight.
Yeah, he is not on the council yet.
Yeah, he is a knight, but probably by 82 BBY he will be on the council as a master.
He was a master on the council for at least 100 years.
Which would make sense by the time 82 BBY hits for the end of the High Republic timeline.
Yeah. we'll see how things go with that. It'd be definitely an interesting concept for that.
Yeah.
To also maybe towards the last book introduce Palpatine's teacher.
And while there are only currently slated 4 books, I mean there is room for so many more.
I mean, you have amongst those books what 200 and 300 years worth of timeline to cover.
800. You have 800 years you can play with for the total of the High Republic. You have 800 years to play with.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about the 4 books that are taking place. But regardless, tomato, there's a bunch of material source that is available there, and I think that these 4 books would set a precedent for it. For just like every era saga, like you have 4 books, and then you have a bunch of tangent books that add to it, and then it's up to you as the reader to decide what you want as canon and what you are kind of like, not so good.
Yeah.
Hey, look, it's back to my original point from 2 hours ago.
Yeah. All right. I say with that, we've covered as many of the potential Star Wars games that we can think of. I'm sure we can think of more if we actually sit here and talk about it before we go on another tangent. Before we go into another tangent, but I'm gonna say that's a wrap. It's been a good few hours now, 2.5.
2.5 exact, actually.
So at least for the podcast, I definitely think that this is a good place to call it.
Those who are watching, if you know how to reach Scorch, do you have a Twitter or something?
No, I haven't set up any social media stuff, but I am very active on YouTube, so
YouTube
reach
and
out
Twitch,
to
I
us if you with topic ideas, questions that you'd like us to delve further into.
I think Scorch has a suggestion box on his.
yeah, I have a suggestion box I'll set up on Twitch.
Pop in the suggestion box. Yeah, we'd love to hear. We'd love to hear from what you guys have to think about, what you guys want to have us talk about, and we still need to have our conversation about Prometheus. But
Yeah.
that's another night.
Yeah, that's when everyone's available.
Yeah, because I heard Pat was sick, so I'm just like, I know he specifically like recently rewatched it all to be part of the podcast.
Yeah.
I just rewatched Prometheus last week, just
Same.
to get a fresh, or earlier this week rather, just to get a fresh take for coming in.
Mhm.
If you want to hear more about Star Wars and Star Wars related content, definitely come back every Friday, roughly.
Yeah, roughly rounds about.
Probably every other Friday for something Star Wars. Though we'll probably get into something Star Wars every time because, let's be real here, we're all Star Wars nerds. It's one of our biggest.
We're all
hobbies
we're all nerds. Whatever it is, we'll talk about it.
Something dark side.
Exactly.
I mean, I would love to actually talk strictly about the Blue Harvest Family Guy movies.
Oh yeah.
And with that, we've lost all our viewers.
Sweet.
All right. So
Well,
Shut up, Meg.
So I say that. With that, I think I'll say that has been our second episode of a Distracted podcast with Joe and an unexpected additional guest, Nos Game Test, and then Ellie Wick from before. So everybody have a good rest of your evening. Could be streaming later. I don't know. Talk to everybody
All right,
later
you know
and
what?
soon.
No, hold on. I ain't letting you end it like that, Joe. Rude. Yo, you're gonna plug everyone else's social. Check me out on Facebook at Stark Art 87, Art of a Dragon on Facebook. Check out my artwork.
There we go.
Now you plugged everyone.
There we go. Thank you. I apologize, Joe.
Oh,
Now, just don't lie about your M count next time when you go get your physical.
and the need to Joe. Do it now, Scorch.